Hi, everyone. Welcome back to a new episode of Dare to Be Fearless. Before I get into this episode, make sure that you're following the show on social media at Dare, the number two, Be Fearless, as well as my personal social media, which is at Alexa_Curtis. And if you head to the show notes, there is a special discount code if you want to order any customized covers from Chief Swag Officer or shop any of our newest products. I'm very excited to have someone in the studio today who is the co-creator of a company that I think many of you will know of called Rumble Boxing. Rumble has been around for not that long, but I feel like it's definitely revolutionized the boxing space. I used to go when I was like full-time in LA. You have a serious celebrity roster of people that have come into Rumble locations. Yes. And then post-COVID, it's now gone into a franchise model, but tons of new locations have opened. So Andy Stern, everyone, thank you.
Thanks
for coming in. I'm so excited to have you because even just the few minutes we spoke prior to this even starting to record, I mean, you have had quite an interesting
journey
trajectory, selling sneakers on the weekends, introduced to the founder of Catch, who then you kind of started Rumble with. So walk me to the beginning.
First off, thanks for having me. Yeah. Congrats on your success. I love creators investing in themselves, betting on themselves. So I absolutely love it. And then I always feel grateful for a platform to kind of give my story. Hopefully someone that's listening could be inspired, because anything that is worth pursuing is going to have challenges. And I think my story has a lot of challenges, but I've been fortunate to have a lot of success amidst it. So rewind 2010, college. I'm at Monmouth University, South Jersey, and studying business, studying marketing, love it. Always been an athlete, but it wasn't really built to be a pro athlete kind of thing. 5'5", $150. I'm not going to go far. Dream was to be in the WWE. So I love the sports entertainment aspect, loved public speaking, loved athleticism and storytelling, so forth. But go into a basement of Cedar Hall and I take a group fitness class because Residential Life hosted a free one right before winter break. And that was my first taste of group fitness in a no frills basement. And her name was Mary, and she was just a lunatic. And I loved it. I felt like literally boombox, no lights, nothing that we know of as group fitness. And I went home and I started studying right away for my certifications. I started watching, videos. I started researching how I could program my own. Coming to the spring semester, and I went to Residential Life and I said, I'm going to create and teach a program for free. The residents, I called curriculum, and I taught it 10 times a week for free. And that was spring of 11. Success was awesome. Students loved it. The connections that I made were awesome. The business school got word of it, and I teamed up with Professor John Buzza, who then introduced me to his entrepreneurship class, who took an idea, that was their project, to bring an idea to life. So they took curriculum into a DVD product with a book, with a resistance band, and we made it into a business, which was fascinating for me as a student, now as an advisor, getting my MBA, getting real life experience, building a company. And I ran with that for about 3 years. And that was hard. Selling DVDs, while I knew the trajectory of entertainment was shifting from DVDs to digital, I wasn't producing enough revenue to make the investment calculated to say, let's go digital. And I was working out of my parents' bedroom, right? So this is just hey, I have an idea. Let me call that bookstore and do this, and this. So that's when I started teaching and went all in on teaching group fitness, from Orange Theory to Retro to Robert Wood Johnson. And I fell in love with that aspect of the business. And while I love the marketing and sales, teaching for me created this just connection with clients that made me feel full. And at that point, I was like, I can't sustain teaching these 30 classes a week and, provide the life that I would like to have. So I was getting frustrated. So then I started to dab into my doctorate for physical therapy on top of the workload. And at that point, that's just a burnout, right? There's only so much you could physically and mentally do. And I was doing 7 days a week, 3:45 in the morning, waking up to teach, going to school, teaching again at night. So I sent a frustrated text message to a mentor, a good older brother of mine, Joey, I want to open a gym. And he said, well, coincidentally enough, my best friend Eugene said the same thing similarly, and he wants to get into the space. You should talk. That was April of 16. By June of 16, we really had conversations going. I met the rest of the founders, and I was anxious, nervous, as you would be, thinking about all the possibilities that a new endeavor could be, but also fearful of New York City because I had to leave Jersey to do New York. But I was hungry, and I said, I'm in. And one of the best pieces of advice Eugene, one of the founders, said to me, he said, you've got to drop everything if you're going to do this. Because, part of you wants to steal second base, but keep your foot on first. And I said, no, I could still do this on the side. I could do this on the side. I don't have to do. But I don't think I would be in this chair if I kept foot on first base. I had to take the leap and bet on something, bet on the people, bet on myself in order for this to actually work, or else I would have played safe and said, I'll commute, or I'll teach on the side. I had to go all in. So I went all in. I moved to New York with my fiance at the time, and unfortunately on the personal side, my dad just passed that, sort of time. Basically the same day I signed my offer letter. And now you get the guilt sort of sitting in, right? My mom's at home. She's the queen. I'm now leaving the nest. I'm the third son. I'm the last one. I'm going to leave her alone to do this. But she's your mom, right? So she's not going to want you to stay back. She's going to want what's best for you. So I make the decision to do it. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to go to New York. I'm in New York in September of 16. We're not open yet. We're building. We're still conceptualizing this workout, building the team, building the process. And I get a call that they found cancer on her pancreas. Bang, you just get punched in the face again, right? 3 months later, you lose dad. 3 months later, you're scared of losing mom, but you're also excited to build your professional career that you've been honestly trying to build for 5, 6, 7 years. And now that guilt is even twice as heavy because you're like, do I move back home to take care of her? Because who's going to take care of her? It was a very challenging, and anyone that's listening to this that has issues of understanding emotions, I try to suppress a lot of those emotions naturally.
Just that men do.
Yeah. And I think, finding the right therapist for me was crucial. It wasn't just about finding a therapist. It was I had to go through a few to understand who I needed to talk to that could help me not solve the problems. I think a lot of people think therapy solves problems. No. It was to identify my emotions, my cycles of why I was feeling certain ways. For example, when I knew it was probably mom's last Christmas, which unfortunately it was, I spoke to my therapist. I said, how do I stop myself in that moment, that wave of sitting at the dinner table, knowing it's going to be her last? How do you... And her advice was simple, count the blue items in the room because your brain will get distracted. But she gave me that space to say, it's okay to feel that, don't put it away and don't, belittle that feeling because that's a life-changing feeling, knowing it's the last. And on the flip that coin, I didn't know it was my dad's last when it was. So it's the yin and the yang. Do you want to know what's going to happen or do you not want to know? Yeah. So I think anyone that's listening to this that is going through hard times, you don't need to try to solve your own problems. There is definitely somebody professionally out there that can, again, not solve them, but help you understand the problems that you have. I wouldn't even call them problems, the feelings that you have and how you could handle them.
That's such good advice and wisdom, and especially to hear a male talk about therapy, because guys are notorious for not talking about their feelings. No one wants to go to therapy. And therapy is similar to exercise, right? It's a muscle that you have to work out and get better at. Mm-hmm. But you're right. You can't go to therapy and expect that they're going to solve your problems. No. They should guide you to the right direction.
100%.
Yeah.
It's very much, like you said, it's you have to continue at it. Yeah. And you have to learn to respect those emotions, right? And it's sit them on a couch. I always try to put that analogy together. If I'm feeling grief, and I suppress it because I maybe in the moment I can't acknowledge the grief, then I'll have to respect it eventually because it's living rent free in my body. So put it on the couch and talk to it. And why you feel in certain ways. But so yeah, kind of going back to the story. So now we launch 2017, January 9th. We just celebrated our 8th birthday recently. And the right people, the right time, the right product. It was fascinating. You know, it was 60 people in, 60 people out, and the Mecca of New York City. It filled my soul. Like I was like, damn, this is amazing. Kevin Hart was one of my first sellout classes. Like what?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I mean, that's just not too far along ago. I was sitting upstairs in my bedroom just trying to make a buck. And like, you know, now to have him in there and the celebrities that came in and, you know, regardless of the celebrities, just people. You know, I like to remind myself that my first group fitness class that I taught, nobody showed up. 0. You know, and I was like, well, that sucks, you know. Made $26. I always remember the $26, but now you have a sellout in New York City. Now you're riding the wave and you're feeling good. Your confidence is getting up there and you're having fun. And I will say though, my first 6 or 7 months teaching Rumble, even though I was obviously day one dude, I had a shell of the character I am today because I was confident. I didn't believe that I should be up there. And I think, you know, everyone has this negative idea of imposter syndrome. Like, we all have it. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I actually enjoy it because if you're in that imposter syndrome, that means you're dipping your toe into something that's a little uncomfortable. And you're maybe trying to figure out how to play that. And when I was playing it, I wasn't playing myself. And it was imposter. So the way that I kind of found success was I had to be authentic to who I am. And that's what led me to having, you know, more fun on that stage because I didn't have to be who I thought they wanted me to be. I had to be who I am. And those people that like that person came back.
People don't realize that the term fake it till you make it is literally like what
it's a recipe. It's good.
Yeah, of course.
Do it.
It's really not that bad. It's like you have to have a spirit animal, right? Who believes in you the most.
100%.
I mean, sitting in front of you, you seem like incredibly confident. So it's hard to think of you back then not being the same confident person.
I mean, when I put a microphone on, I could entertain, right? I can capture, I could speak, I could motivate, but I didn't authentically believe everything that I was saying and how I was saying it. It's not even just what I was saying, it was how I was. You know, did I have to speak a certain way because I'm in a edgy, cool brand in New York City? Did I have to dress a certain way because I'm in an edgy, cool brand in New York City? And I think you do have to play a part in the ecosystem, but it's important that that credibility is honest and truthful because if they don't believe you, you got nothing on that stage. You know, it's the same for you. If your audience doesn't believe anything you're saying, broken trust, boom, they're moving on. So they're only going to trust what they believe. And you got to believe in yourself in order for them to believe you.
I'm fascinated about what you said of Eugene is his name, right?
Eugene.
So he said you have to basically drop everything and like do this full force. And I have struggled so many years throughout my career of doing so many different things. And if I could look back on one thing, I'm like, wow, I really wonder sometimes if I had just put everything. But I think as an entrepreneur, it's the financial part. If you don't have a full-time job or if you don't have someone backing you, your toes are always dipped in a million things sometimes. So I get that leap that you took on yourself, but I'm wondering how you coached yourself, or did you have savings? Were people helping you out?
Well, I mean, yes, I want to preface that when I took the leap to go all in, I wasn't leaping into no income. I was leaping into a job, a paycheck. So I was fortunate on the, you know, the leap to still have a safety net. It wasn't necessarily like maybe in your predicament where I'm going to drop all of my endeavors to go all in on myself and not have that steady paycheck. So big difference. And I don't want to like, go follow your dreams and like, don't pay your phone bill. Like, you got to be realistic. You know, you have to make sure, you know, you're making money in some regard to live a life. But it was a pay cut in essence for the time to see where I could potentially go. But yeah, I can't sit here and say, yeah.
No, for sure. Because it feels like you also were kind of doing that with all the other things, right? Like it wasn't probably making you $1 million a trainer at Orange Theory or like selling sneakers yet.
No.
So when they came to you with Rumble, what was it about Rumble that was like, this is going to be something different?
There was no concept. So there was a name, Rumble, There was a lease signed on 23rd Street, but that was it. There was no idea of what Rumble is. And my bet was a bet on myself and an investment in these guys because I felt like there's the right people behind it. I didn't even necessarily think that the product was the right thing because there was no product. I just thought these guys are going to invest in this thing. They're getting the right people behind it. Why not? So it was more of a calculated investment on the people, not the product.
Ah, interesting.
And that's what sort of my leap of faith was in them. And thankfully it did pay off. But, regardless of their resumes, sometimes great resumes don't lead to great success. And it all had to work. It had to work with the product, the timing, the place, and the people. So it was definitely the perfect storm. And I was just fortunate to be, the fifth man.
I was going to ask how much timing plays a piece of that because boxing in particular, I still feel like is not as saturated as SoulCycle. I mean, you mentioned
Right.
Flywheel prior to this and bar classes, etc. I mean, in this day and age, I don't even know how you can start something in group fitness that's different.
It's very hard. And I think to speak specifically on group fitness, everyone's trying to create a new, sort of modality to find the hole and put in this workout with this workout to do this, or like, here's a new gizmo and gadget. And I respect that. I do. I think there needs to be evolution. However, I also am a creature in, there's something beautiful sometimes just about simplicity and not overcomplicating, because sometimes overcomplication creates confusion. It creates a hard thing to market, a hard thing to understand what I'm even talking about. So, a workout that people maybe have a little bit of an understanding what it is are going to be more receptive to try, as opposed to fear. I mean, you speak about boxing, that generally intimidates people, right? Like, I don't know how to box. I'm going to feel awkward. Like, what we wanted to do is break that sort of, stigma and make this a hospitality entertainment experience so that it felt inviting. It felt, I can do this. It's approachable, but it's also an experience that's going to make you feel good. The combination of the music and the lights and the energy, you wanted to box. Like, you were like, I feel a certain type of way with this. And that was the whole that we sort of were trying to capture.
Even when I think about Rumble, the first thing that I think of is the logo.
Yeah,
'Cause that logo,
iconic.
It's iconic. I mean, who came up with that?
That was an external agency,
Okay.
and they were just geniuses, and it really was such like an aha moment. Like, when you saw it, you're like, that's it.
Yeah.
Nailed it. Like, yeah, boom.
Even the bags, like the black bags. I mean, that whole experience. I think it was maybe 6 or 7 years ago. I had on Allison Kay, who's I think at the time was one of Bieber's managers, and I think that is like Rumble had just started, because I remember he was like very involved with coming in and like the presence. So was the celebrity presence about Rumble something that also really set it apart?
It was, because naturally we want to do what the celebrities are doing, right? That's just, we're influenced by the celebrity life. And I think, again, tapping back to Eugene, he had built great, authentic relationships, and he respectfully, leveraged them in certain moments that were authentic and they were honest. And those celebrities that he has developed a rapport with came in. And, he taught me a lot about that management of celebrities, because you don't want to, even when you ask me for the bio, like, I don't name drop them, right? I think there's a level of like respect to them, but also it's a respect to Eugene, because, he did open those doors. And when they came in, it was a respect to the celebrity, not get them on the gram right away. Like, let them do that when they want to do that. Let them come to a place as a human and work out. And that's where a lot of our success came from, because they would take the class. It wasn't like, oh, give Bieber a private class. Like, he would just come in and take class, and the people respected that he was there to work out. Of course, you're going to go home and like, oh my God, I worked out next to Justin. Like, and then people are going to want to work out there because, it's Justin coming. But it was a very big respect game that, these are humans and they want to experience something fun. So give them their space and let them come in there and do their thing.
So fascinating how group fitness has evolved because social media has played such a big, I feel like, part in a lot of these trends. And there's good things I've seen about some of these classes. There's bad things, but
Sure.
I feel like the Barry's has always been around. Soul Cycle. I'm curious, having trained at Orange Theory and
Yep.
now, obviously having been so involved with Rumble in particular, what is something that you see that's a positive of these group fitness classes and something that you think is not done well in these classes? Because when
Sure.
you think about it, you're getting sometimes 20 people in a Barry's class. Sometimes I'm like, I've worked out for years, so sometimes I'll be next to someone and I'm like, they're literally gonna break their back, and it's pitch black in there. The trainer can't see. I'm like, how is this good for anyone?
Yeah. Listen, wow. All right. So group fitness, in the entertainment space, right? I do want to preface that like it is group fitness in the entertainment aspect that there's 60 people that I'm commanding in New York City in the dark and in a fast, loud environment. It's my job to keep it as safe as possible, but it is also the responsibility of the client to have a little bit of self-awareness and body awareness, and it's impossible. I don't care what, I don't if it's I'm teaching the class or if the best trainer in the world is teaching the class, like it is impossible to correct 60 people's form. That speed, that attention to detail. It's impossible, right? So, what we try to train trainers is obviously general cues that can connect to the general audience. If one person's doing, here's a quote that I like to say. It's, if one person's messing up, it's their fault.
Yeah.
If multiple people messing up, it's my fault. So if I kind of connect with that, right? If I could see one person dropping their backhand on a punch, I can correct them. I can connect with them. If multiple people are doing that, I've got to take command and coach that properly so that people do it right. But it is group fitness, right? It's not personal training. So there is this level of understanding of, I'm going to get some attention because you should get some. You paid good money to get seen. But I'm also not going to be handheld like a toddler because there's 59 other people in a 45-minute class. Yeah. This is going to move fast. So the good is you feel seen. You should feel seen because in this day and age of social media, which Rumble was built on, we're all so connected digitally. It's so hard to find that space of like, where do I feel seen? Work from home, commute, barely seeing anybody, go to the office, see the same 3 people. That space is where I could feel seen from the trainer, feel with the community, the front desk check-in. Like that's a huge part of the experience, which I think, AI will dab in the world and all the good of technology. Like you will never be able to replace human connection. That's what I think the pandemic was like the hardest part of. We had Zooms, we had Instagram Lives, but I couldn't feel your energy. It was literally just like, as soon as you got that first back to real life class, you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It was huge.
Yeah.
But there is the negatives, I think, of the group fitness business. One, from a trainer perspective, if you don't work, you don't get paid, right? And that's a hard business because you are going to work weekends, nights, holidays. You're not feeling your best, but you're also not trying to call out sick because you got to make a paycheck. You're stressed, your voice hurts, showtime. And you got to be able to flip the switch and remember that it's not about you, it's about them because they're paying 30, 40, 50 bucks a class.
Yeah.
Put it on. And not even just put it on, you got to like show them, teach them, motivate them, educate them, which is hard. And then on the flip side of like the good is more times than not, every time I've gotten on that stage when I didn't want to do it because I was like naturally tired or stressed, at the end of it, I didn't want to stop because they just fill your cup. And that's when you're doing what you love because I truthfully will not retire. My wife might hate that, but I will teach until they bury me in a stage because I think it's a passion of mine to educate, to motivate, to help somebody feel something.
Do you remember the first day that Rumble, like the first class, do you remember having any anxiety that like people wouldn't show up like you're saying?
100%.
Yeah.
Big props to my brother because my brother lived in the city, Bobby, and he brought a lot of his clients. He's in the event space at the time. And he helped me because I didn't have a following. I a name. So it wasn't like, yo, I'm going to go to Andy's class. Like no one knew who I was. I was the brain as a general manager. And so he helped bring some people. So 4 people went to 8, 8 went to 16, 16 went to 24. And now those people start to connect to my character. And that's when I started to have a little bit of like, all right, I could do this thing. I could hang out with the big boys up here. You know, I could make myself into a character. And that's essentially where the mayor evolved from. The mayor was off the heels of that WWE statement, like a personality that was authentic to me, but just exaggerated. And it was, I carry around a gold championship belt and made t-shirts and created this, you know, character that people felt like was genuine, which it is. And that's what made people want to work out with me.
Why do you think that some of these trainers amass such large social media followings, almost like they're celebrities?
Yeah.
From Peloton, even from SoulCycle, when at the end of the day, they were just like a SoulCycle instructor. They were not in movies. I mean, what is it about how this industry had shifted that allows fitness instructors to literally become like social media sensations?
Yeah. It is that connection piece that honestly somebody has to feel relatable. If they're not relatable, like for example, I watched a movie the other day. I think it was called Ambulance. That it was like a bank robbery. He's driving an ambulance at a high speed chase. It's really, the plot's irrelevant, but yeah, honestly, for me, like I cried at the end. I was like, what the hell am I crying about this movie for? It's like it was like a thriller, you know, but I felt the connection. I said. I felt so empowered by the main characters that that's the magic that a lot of these trainers have. They can make you feel seen. They can articulate a lot of the things you may be feeling. They can take whatever, you know, sort of atmosphere that we're in and apply it, you know, maybe a personal story that you're like, oh my God, I'm going through that, or I've felt that. Or like when I talked about grief and cancer in my class, glass shattered. It was almost like you could just see people like more, like they like looked at me. I was like, where? Or when I talked about my dad passed, they're like, another glass shattered. Now all of a sudden, like connection through grief. It's like, and now as I talk about it being a dad, glass shatters, the parents. So there is some relatability to the character, similar to a movie. If you could see yourself as them, if you're cheering for them, if you want to hang out with them, relatability is going to allow you to be like, I'm drawn to this celebrity.
What does Rumble look for when hiring, from like the internal operations to the trainers?
That's a fantastic question. So now my role as vice president of talent and programming, I oversee all of it, but essentially the talent side, I have the ABCs. Authenticity. What I've been saying this whole time. If I don't believe you, there's no way they're going to believe you, and they're being the audience. So I need to believe what you're seeing. So when I watch their audition video, that is the number one piece that I have, you know, either myself or my team looks for.
What do you mean audition video?
So everyone that goes through training has to first audition, and that is a 7-minute demonstration. We provide the content, but you know, you as the applicant are gonna prop up a camera, boom, and audition. And then that gets sent to my team, and my team reviews it, and we have the ABCDs, and that's, again, authenticity. B is brand. Brand is a very, you know, thrown around word a lot, but I think for what we interpret it as is are they on brand to your brand, meaning your market? You know, if you're opening this studio in Colorado versus Brooklyn versus LA, like there's a different brand in each of those markets. So you have to be connected to that local market brand, but also our brand, right? We're a pop culture brand. We're built on hip hop. You have to be able to connect to what we're providing to be on brand. And then C is coachable. I gave you instructions, very simple, like do this, do this, do this. If you can't do that, which more times than not, which is crazy, I'll watch a video and it's totally irrelevant. Yeah. And that's like, you know, you hate to say red flag, but that's a red flag because you couldn't follow direction number 1. How are we going to onboard you? It's going to be a challenge. So if you're authentic, you're on brand, you're coachable, then the D is the decision. Like I'd bet on you or I wouldn't bet on you. And that's the key word I like to say is bet, because I'll take a bet. Sometimes those bets pay off. And some of the top Rumble trainers went to Peloton and became top Peloton trainers. And I love that because you took a platform, you built a great name for yourself, that took it to another platform. I respect that. If I bet on you and you don't bet on yourself and give it, it's not gonna work. One of my best bets is Bobby Joe Davis, and she better listen to this. Now she's a Nike trainer, but she took a bet. She made an audition video. She flew from Mississippi, young kid, green as grass, and she had something. For me, from a talent lens, she had something that I thought people can connect to, relate to, want to work out with, trust. And now she's one of our top performers, in New York City. And like I said, Nike trainer and just a great human that bet on us, invested in us, and we did the same for her.
I'm always fascinated by when I see talent, even like people who I've interviewed for the show, having been in front of the camera and behind it. I mean, there truly is something that sets certain people apart. Like some people just have that it factor. I think also as entrepreneurs, people also have that type of factor. But I feel like, for like the Rumble brand is coming to the table with having a brand already, like a personal brand, something that you guys look for. Is that necessary?
From a business perspective, if you have a following, it's going to help fill the class naturally, which is good for business. However, I've recognized that a lot of personal brands on social media might not be a following that's local to that market. Right? So if I'm teaching all of a sudden in Jersey, but a lot of my following is dispersed, Connecticut, LA, Pennsylvania, like, are they coming to me? Probably not.
Yeah.
It's great for brand exposure, but am I filling the room with my social media following? Maybe not. Right? So I think there's that you could be the micro influencer in your town and be more impactful than the, 50, 60, 70,000 K following, because people in that town know who you are. They respect you. They trust you. They want to see you win. They'll come to you. But there's definitely a value in a personal brand. I mean, for anybody, I always like to say, like, I hope this platform gives you as much as you're going to give it, because that's what it is. It's a platform. It's a microphone. It's an audience. It's an opportunity to grow professionally and personally. So if you're going to pour onto it, I hope it just, makes you blossom into somebody that you want it to become.
What's something that surprised you when building this business? Something that was really hard or something that didn't go as planned?
Scale at this level. So now I got both sides of the coin. I got to see a startup with good funding, good people, care into every detail at a very costly but premium experience. And now my side, on the exponential side, seeing the franchise model, learning two very different business models. I would say this one was much more experiential. And now the product today is much more, we're trying to build a longevity in the membership, right? We're trying to combat attrition. We're trying to get people in the door 2, 3, 4 times a week. We're building a lot more, I would say, community here, where this was a little bit more like Saturday look good outfit brunch for the gram. This has to be a lot more substance, I would say. And both have their pros and cons. Like, neither one are right or wrong. It's just a different business model. Membership, more suburban, smaller footprint, no locker rooms, no gold Biggie statues, like a very different, I would say, vibe. But my job is to try to keep the product when you walk into the classroom as authentic to what it was January 9th of 17. Good music, good atmosphere, good equipment, good trainers, good workout, that whole thing. It's just, for me, learning how difficult it is to scale humans.
Yeah, of course.
It is, I think, when I look at the product and the talent in my department, the product has been relatively easier to scale than the talent, because we could curate great workouts and great playlists, great looking slides in the class, and here it is. Here's the playbook. Teach this, do this. But if the hand that's not, the one that's teaching it can't deliver it, it falls flat. So I always like to say, across the board, if you go to Japan, to LA, to Australia, Kuwait, Mexico, if you take a Rumble class, it's always going to be good, because I have confidence in the product that we are producing from a workout. It goes from good to great when that trainer can deliver feelings and emotions and moments. And that takes that special sauce. That's that person that can see the clients, can create a moment, can feel the energy, can deliver substance with the peaks and valleys, that it takes us an art. So I'd say the hardest part is scaling talent, not scaling the product.
Interesting. I'm so fascinated by what, I mean, a trainer even does like in a day. Do they only get paid, you said, based on how many
The
people?
teaching, yeah.
So
Most of them,
how many people show up to the class is how they get paid.
generally, yeah.
But what if you give them like a shit time of 9:15 a.m. and no one shows up?
It's hard. So there's definitely different calculators, right? Some get a base plus a variable. So if I teach, if my base is say X amount, after 50% I get a plus, or some just get a flat rate.
How do you choose though?
The owner itself will work and kind of figure out, there's a quote, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. So I need to, as a business owner, make sure I'm paying competitively to retain top talent, but not overpaying so that the business loses. There's this balance, right? It's like, I need to make enough money to keep the lights on, but I want to give you enough so that you could pay your lights as well.
Is that stressful for a trainer though, to have to think, I'm showing up to perform, but then I also have to show up and like think of how,
Oh yeah,
wow, that seems like very
hard.
stressful.
it's very, very, I mean, I'm just never a bartender, but I have to assume similarly, how many are coming? What are my tips going to be tonight? X, Y, and Z. So, but it is, as an influencer, your job as a trainer to influence and promote. Are you going out on trying to podcast? Are you trying to work brand deals? Are you going to other studios and talking to other trainers and inviting them to your class so that there's a rapport? And, there's a strategy in building your personal brand. Not just like, if you build it, they will come. Like, hey, I can't just be like, hey, show up.
But now the brand is so established that
The brand will always draw people, no doubt about it. And that's good. The brand's going to help you, but you got to help the brand. It's a two-way street here, right? It's like you got to help fill it because, again, it's like if the people don't show up, none of us have a brand. Like the people are paying the brand.
Yeah.
So it's important.
So looking back to where you were when you did that first group class and the sneakers, etc., to now, what is a piece of advice you would have given your younger hustling self?
Oof. I would say right off the bat, it's you can't do this thing alone. And I mean that for anyone that's entrepreneurial. Like, you might bootstrap yourself to the beginning because you have to save money to make things work. But when I was starting with curriculum and the school was, at that point I was graduated, I was trying to be the marketer, trying to make sales, trying to teach the classes, trying to make the connections, trying to pay the taxes. Like, wearing all of those hats takes you away from wearing the hats that you might be really good at.
Of course.
And that's where I think, in hindsight, if I had a team early on, maybe curriculum takes off. And there is no part of Rumble for me because it worked. But I think the lessons that I have early on is not, you could have the greatest product, you can have the best timing, you could have the greatest place, but unless you have the right people, it's not going to work. And you really need a combination of all of those, but nobody is the best at everything. So surround yourself right away with people that are better, smarter, more equipped to do what you aren't that good at, and you'll be in a better position to succeed.
I feel like, and there's a lot of guys who listen to this show, you'd probably have some great advice, which I don't really ask like too many guests to directly say to like young men in the realm of like health and wellness, but also dating and relationships. I mean, you have 2 kids.
2 kids.
They're how old?
Presley will be 4 this month, February, and then Owen's 8 weeks old.
Like a literal baby.
He's a baby.
I mean, and you were high school sweethearts with your wife, so it's a bit different.
Yes.
But I feel like in the Rumble world, I mean, you've got to be around tons of guys and have seen so many people and know people well. So what do you feel like, any advice you have for young men when it comes to dating or health and wellness, finances?
Dating, I'm going to be the least credible source. I think I was fortunate to meet Julia early on. We had our highs and lows. We had our journey, and we've come out on the other end. But definitely not the best of piece, the guy to sit here and tell you how to date. From a health and fitness, I would say right off the bat, you I don't mean this weird, just don't be a creep in a gym space, right? Like you're going to see attractive people in group fitness classes and in the gym. Respect their boundaries as well. And, yes, their outfit might be revealing and it might be a little bit like, okay, that's a gym outfit. But don't stare at them, like respect their boundaries. But in terms of personal health, I will say, going back to the mental health, you could have the best biceps and abs in the world. If you're not working on your mental game, you're not succeeding. And I think, at the end of the day, that is the best muscle you can be working. I've been starting to journal more. I've been trying to, tap back into my own mental health, because I think it's easy to just say I'm fine. It's easy to just say, like, succumb those emotions and suppress them. And I think it's a real challenge to understand when you don't feel great, and to sort of put those names to the emotions that you may be feeling. And on the business side, I'll say to anybody, male or female, like if you don't have your own personal finances in line and understand where your money's going, you're never going to make enough working.
Yeah.
And my wife hates it, but I have an Excel sheet and I know our fixed costs and our variable costs, and I know it. And it's, I'm in a great financial position, but even still, it's like a penny saves, a penny earns. So to know where you are financially, it'll help you, I think, try to achieve what you're trying to get to financially.
Do you think it's hard though in your 20s?
Super hard.
Yeah. And I feel like it's just everyone is kind of moves back home or has roommates. It just seems very hard now to save and do this thing called life in comparison to when it
Yes.
10 years ago.
I will say, to the counter that, I think it's never been easier, and people might hate this comment, I don't think it's ever been easier to make $1.
For sure.
In this creator economy, in this, the ability that it's at your fingertips from a free platform to make a revenue stream. I'm not saying it's an easy dollar. I'm just saying you could make $1.
Yeah.
That's impressive. And I think there's a lot of kids way, 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 way younger than me that are making a lot more money doing things that, like, opening a box of Legos. Yeah. And I'm like, wow.
Some of that shit though is
it's crazy town.
I know, it's crazy, but like, how does that even? That stuff is wild.
But we are the product, right?
Yeah.
We as people are the audience, and once you capture their attention, similar to this, right? The more eyeballs and more ears that you get, the bigger this platform grows, and it's the fact that we can make a buck doing that. Something you love doing is awesome.
Cool. Does Rumble get a lot of I would assume, influencers who reach out and like want free classes and stuff?
Of course.
And what's the world of that? I mean, what should people know if they're trying to reach out to like a Rumble to get a comped class?
Shoot them a DM. I think talk to the Instagram account, because each franchise now has their own handle. There's obviously the main account, but each store has their own. Just send them a message. Like, don't just ask for what you want. Provide something. And I think anyone that's working the account that has, a little bit of common sense can see, all right, this influencer wants to come in and maybe we can get some organic content out of them. Maybe they could do a day in a life. Maybe we could, barter something, take care of the people take care of the business. And so I think if that goes for anybody. I mean, I'm wearing Project Rock sneakers, and that was me just DMing Project Rock, be like, I love The Rock. I love you guys. Like, let's do something. And lo and behold, people behind it were like, super cool. Yeah. And like, we've done some fun stuff together now just by, I don't want to say manifesting, but simply asking.
People don't ask enough.
Just ask.
I'm like a serious.
What's the worst that can happen? Like, they don't answer?
Yeah. It's like, okay.
Tried.
I love to follow up. I think that's what this generation doesn't know how to do, is have interpersonal relationships, because they're so attached to the phone. Right. And it is just going to harm you in business if you don't know how to do that.
But I will say to that, also know what you're asking for.
100%.
I think I struggled with that all the time early on when I would reach out to people in the fitness space and I would try to like get time with them. Like, I didn't even know what questions I wanted to ask. So it's like, I got to be respectful of their time. If I'm going to come to the table, I needed, what am I walking away from this table with that was my objective? Because oftentimes you're just going to be like, oh, I just want to meet you. And it's like, okay,
that's not enough.
Let me help you.
Yeah.
And a lot of people helped me get to where I am. And I think if I knew to ask better questions back then, when people would just say, what do you want? And like, I don't know. I want to make it in fitness. Well, what does make it mean? I don't know.
What does it mean now?
Now it means provide a life for my kids that I'm around, and when I'm not around, they'll always have enough. That's making it. And I think early on, I had to establish a financial dollar amount egotistically, because I needed to know when I make this amount of money, I'll be happy. Wrong. When I had this many followers, I'll be happy. Wrong. But it was like a weird game, because that's like destination happiness, right? It's like when then I. It's wrong. It's not. If you're not happy now on the chase, that place isn't going to give you happiness. So when I made that much money, my life didn't change. Like, yeah, I could buy different things, but it wasn't like sunshines and rainbows. When I got that many followers, it wasn't like I woke up like, oh, wow, life's different now. Look at this place. Life was the same, except I had to teach myself that it wasn't the destination. So when I defined success, I early on, to go way back to this conversation about not being confident, what was success going to look like? I didn't have a definition for it. So what I was doing was chasing his success or her success or their success. I didn't know what I was chasing. Spoiler, you're not going to be able to reach it if you don't know what you're chasing, right? Yeah. So unless you define that success, you're never getting it.
No.
Because it doesn't exist.
What makes you fearless?
Unfortunately, hitting rock bottom with losing my parents, losing my grandma in 3 years, listening to hospital beeps till 2, 3 in the morning, waking up 2, 3 hours later to teach a class and being a motivator. That to me is like life at that moment. And I know eventually life will give me another punch to the face, but that was the hardest punch I could ever face. Sudden death and then watching your mom, perish is like, if I can go through that and still stand and still, use my pain as a passion and a purpose and help people, like, I'm pretty fearless. Like, unless something devastating happened, I can handle anything.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
No, 100%. That's very inspiring.
Yeah. But, when you go through any tragedy, you give yourself an opportunity to just function.
Yeah.
So anyone that is going through hard times, it's okay if you're in the function season. I ain't going to thrive, not going to look my best, not going to feel my best, not going to make the most, I'm not going to create the best content. I'm just going to function. And eventually that season will get past. And then eventually you're going to be like, all right, now I'm going to thrive a little bit here.
Seasons.
Said,
Seasonal.
Not forever.
No.
They all,
yeah,
they cycle through. So
you need to write a book.
I did write a book.
You did write a book.
A kid's book.
Okay. I see like a memoir from this.
Eventually maybe a coffee book, but it's called The Gift of Friendship.
Okay.
It is 2 or 3 lasting lessons that my parents left me that unfortunately they didn't get to meet my kids. So now I got to leave behind theirs. It's all about Bruno and Luna, a bear and a llama. Oh. And Bruno is on the search for Luna's perfect birthday present. And he's in a rush. And Bruno is in search of that gift. And Luna teaches Bruno a lesson. Bruno's mom teaches Bruno a lesson. And I don't want to spoil it. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart.
Wow.
So it was such a fun passion project. Such a cool thing to learn about children's books. And I knew nothing about.
Me either.
Nothing.
No, I know nothing.
Shout out to my friend Brittany Turco. Yeah. She was a girl I went to high school with and wrote a bunch. She's just an expert at it. I call her a wizard. And she just helped me in the journey of that. And it was just like, now I have a book. Yeah.
I love that. I'm going to link that in the show notes. Where can everyone else find you online, social media, etc.?
Yes, at Andrew G. Stern on pretty much everything. LinkedIn is a good one to connect if you're into the business of fitness. Instagram, definitely if you're being a trainer or an operator looking to, understand the fitness industry more. I am a sponge to, give you everything back that I've been fortunate to receive from this industry. So
That's incredible. Thank you so much for coming
Thank
on the
you.
show. Thank you so much to everyone for tuning in to another episode of Dare to be Fearless. I will link all of Andy's social links, LinkedIn, etc., and the book in the show notes. And if you want to get your own custom microphone covers or any of the other products, head to chiefswagofficer.com, and there is a promo code as well in the show notes. And I'll see you back next week for a new episode of Dare to be Fearless.
We have fun.